Hey guys, Chris here and welcome to the first episode of my new series First in the Franchise, a series where I plan on going back and looking at the first game in popular franchises, and with it being the 10th anniversary of one of my favourite franchises, The Witcher, I felt there was no better game to start off the series with. On October 26, 2007, The Witcher was released on Windows PC in Europe and 4 days later in North America. After spending 5 years in development, finally an international audience could experience The Witcher. Based on Andrzej Sapkowski's fantasy series of short stories and novels, the game was most people's introduction to the world of The Witcher. Although his books had a cult following in Poland, Russia and other Central and Eastern European countries, none of his books had been translated to English until the 19th of May 2006, when it was published by Galanx only a year before the game's release. Developed by CD Projekt RED, the game was published by Atari except for in Poland, where CD Projekt published the game themselves. Before CD Projekt were known worldwide for The Witcher, they were only known in Poland, being one of the first companies to localise games in that region. Their first successful localisation being the point-and-click game Ace Ventura. Where their previous localisations had only sold in the couple of hundreds, Ace Ventura was selling in the thousands. After seeing some success, they approached BioWare and Interplay for the Polish localisation of Baldur's Gate. Interplay, BioWare's publisher at the time, was sceptical, saying that the market was too small, but with faith in their country's appetite for the game, they decided they would carry the risk themselves. Expecting the game to be popular in Poland, they hired well-known Polish voice actors and added items like a parchment map sealed with wax, a D&D rulebook and audio CD to try and give the buyers extras that they wouldn't get if they had bought from pirates. With most games in Poland averaging sales of around 1 to 2,000, everyone's expectations were blown away with the game shipping 18,000 units on its release and selling 50,000 in its first year. After the release of Baldur's Gate, they continued working with Interplay, collaborating on a PC port for the sequel, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. However, 6 months after development began, Interplay started experiencing financial problems, causing them to cancel the PC version. After the cancellation of the game and with CD Projekt owning the game's code, the founders began contemplating whether they should continue as a distributor or as a game developer. They eventually decided they would use the code to develop their own game. They intended to develop a series based on Andrzej Sapkowski's Witcher books. They were able to get the license for just 35,000 Polish zloty. Translated, that's about 9.5 thousand US dollars or just over £7,000. In an interview with Eurogamer, Sapkowski said, "I was stupid enough to sell them rights to the whole bunch. They offered me a percentage of the profits. I said no, there will be no profit at all. Give me all my money right now, the whole amount." It was stupid. I was stupid enough to leave everything in their hands because I didn't believe in their success. But who could foresee their success? I couldn't. And in my opinion, Sapkowski wasn't crazy for thinking like that. He had already sold the license to Metropolis Software back in 1996, who were developing a Witcher game until they cancelled a year later, due to the team being stretched thin across different projects and feeling like they had bit off too much. Funnily enough, in 2008, CD Projekt actually bought Metropolis Software. Think how different both companies' futures could have been if Metropolis had successfully developed their game in the 90s. Anyway, with license in hand, on the 6th of March 2002, CD Projekt formed CD Projekt RED, a video game development studio that would develop the game. The game's development started with a demo made by the team that they used to pitch to publishers, and a special thanks to Ryslaw, who was the project lead for the game, for allowing me to use his footage of the demo that you're seeing right now. The link to his video is in the description down below, and when you're done here, I strongly suggest you go and watch his 2 videos on the history of The Witcher. But back to the demo, it had a top-down perspective similar to Dark Alliance and Diablo, and didn't have Geralt as the main protagonist. Instead, the player would create their own character and Geralt would appear in the game later as an NPC. However, after having no success with publishers, they closed their office in Lodz, moving the team to CD Projekt's headquarters in Warsaw. With a lack of overall direction and the team having different ideas, the demo was scrapped and they went back to the drawing board. With the team being unfamiliar with developing games, they received some help from BioWare, who licensed them their Aurora engine, the engine that was used to make BioWare's Neverwinter Nights and its 2 expansion packs, and by also offering to help promote their game by giving them space at their E3 booth in 2004. Despite being nowhere near finished and having only been in production for 8 months, it was at E3 where they revealed their game, impressing the audience with the game's superb graphics. Originally planned for release in 2005, the game was delayed until 2007, and the original 15-person team expanded to about 100 at the cost of around 20 million zloty, exceeding the game's budget expectations, which is about $16 to $21 million in today's money. Finally being released in 2007, the game was received well, selling over 800,000 copies worldwide in the game's first year, winning over 90 awards like PC RPG of the Year from IGN, GameSpot, PC Gamer and GameSpy, and the game's soundtrack was voted Best Fantasy Game Soundtrack in the 2007 Radio Rivendell Fantasy Awards. It was also being nominated for many awards like the Writers Guild of America's award, losing to PSP exclusive Deadhead Fred, and the Visual Effects Society's Outstanding Pre-Rendered Visuals in a Game, losing only to World of Warcraft's The Burning Crusade cinematic intro. As far as reviews went, most places gave the game an 8.5, praising the game for its interesting, gritty world that actually felt lived in, realistic NPCs with realistic problems, the combat system, and the game's great story and visuals. They did however have problems with the game's inventory system, potion making system, repeated character models with disjointed dialogue and goofy animations, as well as the extremely long load times. To answer these criticisms, CD Projekt announced The Witcher Enhanced Edition at GDC in 2008 and later released the Enhanced Edition in September of that year. The Enhanced Edition included many fixes for the game like improving load times by 80%, 200 new motion captures, 10 new subtitle languages and 9 new voiceover languages, an improved inventory system and a character differentiation system that would add more variety to NPCs and monsters. The Enhanced Edition also featured a making of DVD, soundtrack, game guide, interactive comic book and an adventure editor with 2 new adventures adding over 5 hours of gameplay. Best of all, those who had bought the original Witcher could download all of this content for free online. The Enhanced Edition did well, launching on the 19th of September 2008 and selling over 300,000 copies as of December of that year, bringing the total to over 1 million copies sold in just over 1 year after the game's original release. After seeing this success, Atari strongly suggested they release a console version of the game and they would be happy to fund it. With CD Projekt not having the internal capacity to do it themselves, they hired French studio Widescreen Games to create the port, while CD Projekt RED started looking at the sequel, The Witcher 2: Assassins of Kings. They revealed the game to the public in December of 2008, but only 5 months later there was problems, with Widescreen Games continually wanting to delay the game due to a lack of manpower and money. Claiming that CD Projekt weren't paying them, CD Projekt responded that more money was getting spent on them than CD Projekt RED in Poland and cancelled the game due to not meeting deadlines and ended their association with the company. Atari, as you would expect, were not happy with the decision to cancel the game, demanding that CD Projekt repay them for the failed game. They agreed that Atari should be repaid for the game, so agreed to let Atari be the North American publisher of The Witcher 2. But that wasn't the only cancelled project related with The Witcher 1, there had been 2 planned add-ons. Scars of Betrayal, being made by Ocean Studios, was to be set in the Mahakam Mountains to the east of Vizima, where Geralt would arrive at a small village and get caught up in a web of intertwined intrigue and complex interpersonal relationships that would force him to make tough choices. But in August of 2008, with the add-on about 60% complete and with Ocean and CD Projekt RED preparing to reveal it at Gamescom, they got a call that all external Witcher development was to be cancelled. This included the other add-on, Outcast, that was being developed at the time. Outcast, being developed by Rocksteady, was to be set in the Skellige Isles before Geralt established himself as a Witcher. But with the global economic crisis of 07-08, CD Projekt were on their knees, with all the money from the first game being spent trying to clear up the mess of the console port, CD Projekt's publishing distribution becoming a black hole, and GOG too small at the time to sustain itself, the company looked like it was on its last legs. Luckily though, after some hard months, CD Projekt managed to survive because of a reverse takeover that listed the company on the Warsaw Stock Exchange, allowing them to become the industry icon that they are today. If you've never played The Witcher 1, I strongly recommend you do, with The Witcher 2 being my introduction to the franchise when it was released on the 360. I was hesitant to play the original as it was a PC exclusive, the controls were different, and it didn't look as graphically impressive. The game didn't immediately grab me the first time I played it, so I put it on the shelf and never played or looked at it again. That was about 5 years ago and I'm honestly quite embarrassed to admit that. I went back and played the game again before making this video and I've just fallen in love with the game. I don't know if it's because I'm older now or that I know all this backstory that I never knew back then, but I'm glad I gave it a second chance. So if you're like me, you had it sitting in your Steam library untouched, give it an hour of your time and just appreciate the game. I had originally planned on doing a story overview where I tell you about the whole plot, but since I'm still playing through the game and hopefully some of you guys who haven't played it yet will give it a shot, I'm instead going to link to a video in the description that's made by CD Projekt that gives you a quick overview of the story for you guys who have no intention of playing the game but want to know the story. So that was the first game in the Witcher franchise. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to check the description for any links that I've mentioned. I'll also have all my sources down there as well. Subscribe to see when new videos go up. I'll have another first in the franchise up next month, maybe more depending on how much I can get done in between work. And if you liked the video, please be sure to hit that like button. And until then, goodbye.